Now, with just weeks after the end of the 2022 World Cup, the sports arm of the Qatar Sovereign Wealth Fund is exploring buying stakes or maybe taking 3 English Premier League clubs. This is according to a Bloomberg source. Simone Foxman has the details. What's the investment case here? What are you hearing, Simone?
Well, everyone pretty happy with how the World Cup went just a couple of weeks ago. But there's long been this desire to kind of tie that event and all the hundreds of billions of dollars of spending that went on around it to future sports investments, to brand Qatar as a sports hub globally. And so that's part of the rationale, we think. We also understand that this could be used as sort of a hedge. Qatar has a lot of investments in clubs around Europe and interested in a lot of football around the world, but Portugal League, for example, is not necessarily the highest revenue. And when you look at the English Premier League, these are massive valuations, $4 billion plus for some of the teams that we're discussing here. Those Manchester United, Liverpool, and Tottenham Hotspur. We understand that there were recent discussions between Nasser Al-Khelaifi, the chair of Qatar Sports Investments, and Tottenham Hotspur, but all of these teams, some sort of stake could be on the table. Interesting to watch here, however, is UEFA rules prohibit 2 teams that are outright owned by the same owner from entering these major European competitions. Remember, Qatar owns PSG in France, so the idea being potentially we see a minority stake in one of these other teams, and that's something that some of these teams have indicated they're willing to sell simply because that would allow multiple teams to enter these massive competitions.
And to the markets where the Egyptian pound is under pressure again and the government is trying to cut back on spending. What's the latest?
Yeah, we saw a record low in the offshore market for the Egyptian pound yesterday, 27.6 to the U.S. dollar. And this after the devaluation that happened last week, after 3 devaluations in the course of about 10 months. Very painful for folks on the ground. I witnessed that firsthand. I was actually in Egypt on vacation over the past week. And but however, when we look, and we can show you this in a GTV Go, the black market rate still 31 to the U.S. dollar, but part of this is leading Egypt to cut back, the government to cut back on some of its spending. Ministry is going to be forced to ask the central bank and the finance ministry before they use foreign currency going forward.
Simone, I just have to jump in here because we have a red headline from TSMC, one of the largest chip makers in the world and really an important source for understanding the outlook for the industry. They're coming through with the December sales number of 192.56 billion, which is an expansion of 24% year on year. The December sales number is up 13.5% month on month. And the stock has 37 buys, 3 holds, and 0 sells. We await additional A, guidance, and B, of course, the market reaction intraday. This is your TSMC stock. Off by 1.04% again, but the full picture is only going to come to fruition over the next few minutes. We will keep a very close eye on it for you. I want to get back to Simone and talk Turkey, because sources are telling Bloomberg that a senior official in charge of GDP data has actually been removed from his post. That's huge.
Yeah, this is the chair of what's called the National Accounts Directorate, and apparently he's been reassigned, but this comes after the weakest print for the Turkish economy in the third quarter since 2020. It came out at 3.9% annualized GDP growth, but that was well below most analysts' expectations. It was down from 7.7% in the previous quarter, and actually when adjusted for seasonal variations, it actually showed a weakening of 0.1%. So we ask, how important is this? Well, certainly President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has hitched his whole campaign, and he goes to elections in the middle of this year to remain as president, to a growing economy, even at the expense of inflation. Do the numbers matter? There's something that economists have been critical of. They've been critical of what many perceive as incorrect CPI prints that have come out from the same statistics agency. Does this matter to voters? Does this matter to people on the ground? Or does what's happening in their pocketbook matter? The overall economist expectation is that we could see a worsening of the economy going forward. Whether the numbers continue to reflect that, that is a question we are going to be watching very closely, Yusuf.